This week's podcast is brought to you by Sarah Wells Breast Pump Bags, stylish designer handbags that fit all portable and some hospital-grade breast pumps on the market and come in a variety of styles, colors, and prices.
They're real cute, y'all.
They're real cute. I wish Sarah had been around when I was pumping and I could have actually had the confidence to bring my pump bag anywhere.
I can't even talk about what my breast pump bag. I think it was like a grocery bag. It's like so sad cake.
Her designs are so spot on, you guys. Plus, she designed a pumperoo pouch for all your pump parts and
Genius.
a cold gold breast milk cooler bag because you guys, you can't waste that gold.
You got to keep that gold cold, y'all.
Not one drop of that
Not
gold.
one drop.
Sarah's a mom, an entrepreneur, a women's health advocate, and her bags are so awesome. So check out sarahwellsbags.com. And if you use the code PUMPANDDUMP10, you get 10% off until the end of this year.
Do it.
Pump and Dump 10 through the rest of 2019. Get your pregnant breeder friend a nice holiday gift. Send a designer Sarah Wells bag to a new mom. Or get yourself a nice new pump bag,
Just
breeders.
get yourself a pump bag, a nice one, so that you want to leave the house.
sarahwellsbags.com. We'll also have this deal available at thepumpandumpshow.com/deals. Hi, I'm Shayna.
And I'm Tracy, and we are the creators of The Pump and Dump Show. We are moms, but we were women first. And in this podcast, we explore what it's like to be a woman who also happens to be a mom.
Before we were moms, we were women. Before we were moms, we were chillin'. We were pumping and dumping. We're talking about something. This is the Pump and Dump Podcast.
Welcome back, breeders.
What's up, breeders?
Pump and Dump Podcast.
We love you.
It's opposite day.
We switched jobs.
Oh,
Hello.
hey guys.
This week we get to talk to a food writer who is also a mom, who is also awesome.
Who also met Martha Stewart.
Yeah. And we're going to talk about all of the things that go into basically becoming a food writer.
Yeah, and her crazy career, and it's like working in that industry and magazines and all that crazy stuff.
Totally
I
fascinating.
mean, she eats for a living, you guys. Can we talk about that for 2 seconds?
And then Tracy and I, of course, are going to ask her every question that you're thinking right now in your brain.
I wish we could have asked her more. But before we get to our guest, it would be awesome if you guys could leave a little review of our podcast down in podcast land, wherever you listen. If they accept reviews, we would sure appreciate your feedback, but only if it's positive.
Wow.
Just jokes. Not really. I'm not joking. Email us if you hate us. That's cool. We can take it.
Yeah.
Just don't put it publicly. But yeah, it would help us a lot. The powers that be would appreciate it, and we would too.
Leave a review.
Thanks.
And then make sure we say this at the end, but make sure that you go on our site and check out where all the Pump and Dump shows are coming through.
Mhm.
This week we're in Texas, but we are headed to Arizona and a bunch of other fun places. It's not Tracy and I in those cities, but it is these amazing casts that you will absolutely love.
So definitely
So check it
get
out.
yourself ticket to a Pump and Up show. You won't regret it.
You will not regret it. But this week we're gonna talk about what it's like to be a food writer who's also a mom, with our MILF, Mother I'd Like to Find Out About, Denise Mickelsen.
We got a special guest. Special guest.
Our guest today is Denise Mickelsen. She is the food editor of 5280 magazine, which is the premier Denver magazine.
But
it really
Denver
is.
City magazine.
It's a Denver City magazine. I mean, everyone has their own city magazine. 5280 is ours.
Because we're that high in the sky.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Well, we're a mile
Elevation.
high. So we're 5,280 feet. Denver is. That's why we call it 5280.
Exactly.
And it's a great magazine, and everyone reads it. And you're the food editor.
I have the best job on the masthead.
I
Clearly.
I
Yes.
mean,
Yeah.
And you're a mom.
And I'm a mom. I
And
have a fur baby. I have a less fur baby.
you've got
with
a
2 feet. Yeah.
Two-legged
I've got
baby.
a child and a dog. Yeah.
okay.
And a husband. So
there you
sure.
go. Raising
Get
all
to
three.
that, yeah.
Yeah. So we just tell us everything, Denise. Like, tell us, how do you get to be a food editor? What's it like? Are you eating all? I mean, we have so many questions.
We're going to have a good time.
Okay.
And thank you for having me.
Oh, you're
Thank you for
welcome.
lovely
coming.
podcast in this very beautiful place that you record. I wish
Yes.
everyone
Thank
could see it.
you.
It's real nice.
It's very comfy. I'm on a couch.
We'll do a
doing
little
good.
story after the
We
podcast today
should.
and just kind of show.
The shed.
That's a good idea.
The
Denise,
shop is
Denise can give it
Pretty
a
amazing.
a tour for us.
There you
There
go.
you go. Okay,
Okay.
we'll do that. Well, my path to food editor was not direct at all. I was oh my gosh, how far back do we go? I thought I would be a college professor. I was a history major in
Okay.
college.
Okay.
And I loved history from a really good high school teacher, kind of experience. And so I thought I would do that. And I went into the pre-law program thinking maybe I'll be a lawyer. No, 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 I went to that. I'll be a professor. Nothing was really fitting, and I was graduating with a history degree. So,
useful.
yeah, really useful. So I moved to New York, and I was just doing other jobs, and I didn't know what I was going to do. I'll go back to grad school for public history, which was museum work, because I thought I have to do something with this degree. I'll work in museums. I like people.
Oh, yeah.
I don't want to be stuck in an archive, like with
Mhm.
dusty books all the time. I'll work in museums.
Wait, just to stop. So
Yeah.
I didn't know. I've always
is
wondered what that would be
pre-food.
called. So that would be
Public
called public history.
There's also museum studies. It depends. But I thought
Oh.
I want to work at history museums. I have no art background, and I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do, but I'm like, oh, I'll get a master's in that, and that will somehow lead me to what I want to do. Went for grad school. Didn't love being in Indiana for grad school. Came back to New York to finish at NYU. Realized, no, this is not the degree for me. I don't want to be a curator. I don't want to be, again, stuck in an archive somewhere just on a museum's behalf. So I was doing fundraising. I just had a job. I was fundraising. And my favorite part, I was working with Major Gifts. So the big fancy people. It was at Rockefeller University in New York,
Ooh.
Upper East Side. And like the Kissingers and the De La Rentas were on our board of trustees, and I was planning parties for them. And my favorite bit was, picking out the menus and choosing the wines. And they let me do that because I was super, super into food. And I was reading all this food writing all the time. And I just finally said, that's it. I want to be a food writer. And this was before 2000. This was in 1999-ish, 2000, and
when the
no one
interwebs
knew what
were
that
still
was.
very slow.
Right. Well, my mother was like, "Do you want to be a restaurant critic? Like, what does that even mean? You have this
Right.
good job in fundraising. You're doing well. There's a path here. Don't be an idiot." But I said, no, I need to go. And then, ironically, now looking back, I said, no, I need to go to culinary school to learn more about food so I can write about it properly. It never occurred to me maybe to go to journalism school.
Oh,
That did not
interesting.
make a connection in my brain at all at the time. And she said, no, don't do that. And I said, no, 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 I'm really going to do that. So I did. So I took out tons of loans, and I went to the Institute of Culinary Education, which is in New York City.
Ice.
ICE, exactly. It used to be called Peter Kumps for one generation of students before me. But
You are quickly becoming the most accredited person I've ever met. She has a history
I've
degree
random
person I've
so
ever
many
met.
creds that I didn't
She's
use.
also a massage therapist.
Yeah, exactly. And I played the flute as a child as well. So
And I'm
I
an
can do that.
herbalist.
No, I'm a drinkerist. Anyway, I drink.
Perfect.
So I went to culinary school to be a food writer, which is a bizarre choice, but I really loved learning. It's a place you learn about food. You don't come out of culinary school knowing how to be a chef, or even particularly how to cook anything all that well, because you do everything once.
Mhm.
There's one day of egg cooking, brunch dishes. There's a few days on stews. We were talking about stews earlier, that kind of thing. So I was learning about food. All of my professors said you have to cook in restaurants. Everyone has to do an externship, first of all, in culinary school. I wanted mine to be at a magazine because that was the point. I wanted to be in media and be a writer. But all those internships were during the day, and I was still working at my fundraising job to pay for school, and I was going to school on weekends. So all my professors are saying, you need to have an externship in a restaurant anyway because you can't do the daytime weekday ones, which was true. And I kept fighting against it, but finally they talked me into it. And so I went and I got an externship at Blue Hill Restaurant.
Oh, yeah.
Which is a very
Yummy.
but that was before Stone Barns was open. So
Mhm.
Blue Hill in New York City is a wonderful restaurant. At the time, Dan Barber and Mike Anthony were the co-chefs. And it's beautiful new American fare, really, an elevated experience right off of Washington Square Park. And
This
it's
gorgeous garden in the back.
beautiful,
Mm.
beautiful restaurant and beautiful food and very high end and lovely. And I was so honored to be in that kitchen. It was great. And I met my husband there, which was really convenient.
Wow.
He was a sous chef at the time.
Oh, wow.
So that worked out well. So already my professors were on the right track, but they were extra on the right track because I learned from them that I didn't really know Jack coming out of culinary school, and I enjoyed the restaurant work enough. I wasn't going to be a chef, certainly long term, but I decided, yep, I do need to work for real, not just an internship. I need to get a restaurant job. And so I did. I eventually left fundraising and I got a job at a little restaurant called Fleur de Sel, which is no longer there, but it was this beautiful French restaurant on 20th near the Flatiron Building. And I worked there for a couple of years. I worked my
I feel
way
like
up.
I've been there. I feel like I've been to that one.
It was a very well regarded place. Little, it had like 40 seats.
Yeah.
It was very sweet. There were 3 people on the line in the kitchen. So I started on garde manger, which is cold appetizers and salads. And then I moved my way all to the hot appetizers. And then I made it to be the fish cook. So I still am very proud of that. So I cooked fish. There was a fish cook, a meat cook, and then the garde manger,
Wow.
and then the chef kind of making sure everything looked beautiful on its
Love
way out.
that.
So
it was
let
really
me
fun.
ask you really quick, because you hear like, famous chefs talk about their, way up. Isn't it really hard to get jobs in restaurants, especially in New York City?
Well, actually, no, there's a horrible labor shortage right now. If you want to work in a restaurant, I mean, and even then, all you have to do is go in and ask.
Oh,
I mean,
really?
I had very little experience, but if you have a sense of urgency, which actually carries, it's a kind of a pet peeve of mine that carries to any industry, I would say, if you have a sense of urgency and a willingness to work hard, you can work in any restaurant you want. Restaurants are built on free labor. I mean, my externship was unpaid.
Right.
Part of it was school
Mhm.
credit, but then I stayed longer. I was hoping to get hired at Blue Hill. They had just hired a garde manger, so I had to look elsewhere. But they all take free labor. And right now, my God, in Denver and across the country, major, major back of the house kitchen shortages right now.
Interesting.
Because it is hard. It is not glamorous. This
it's
idea we all
super
have
hard.
that, being a chef is some road to riches and fame, and a TV show and a cookbook deal
Oh my
is
God.
not accurate.
It's so many hours.
And
It's
do you think
so
people
many
just want to
hours.
go straight to the TV show and they
course.
don't want to do
Of
the work
course.
and like scrub in and
Absolutely.
And you have
and
to get so many tattoos.
and I didn't get any. So
Oh
that's
my
why I had to
God.
leave. I
Well,
had to
you
leave the
definitely
kitchen.
were a writer.
or at least
The whole
one
time.
ear piercing, like man or woman.
Sure.
Well, and I could only, oh my God, I had my ears pierced once. I'm not going to submit myself to that again. It's enough. Well, my dad's a pediatrician, so he did it in his office with like a needle.
Oh, that's
And
nice.
he was off center on one of them, so we had to
Oh,
redo it. So
Dad.
really, I've had my ears pierced
Okay.
technically twice, but
Wow.
only one result. Anyway, yeah, it's physically grueling.
Mhm.
I mean, I will never forget. So we had little thermometers to check the temperature, the internal temperature of food, but you wear it on your arm, on your chef's coat. There's a little pocket for a Sharpie, and people put their meat thermometers there. And I also had a thermometer, even though I was doing fish. And by the end of the night, I mean, there were no windows in this kitchen. This was a little New York City restaurant kitchen. And we had flat tops, those, iron ranges where the heat is just radiating out of them all night. By the end of the night, the thermometer on my arm was reading 120.
Oh my
And
gosh.
you're wearing a chef's coat and you're cooking and you're moving, and it's grueling. I mean, I always had these like heat rashes, and, it's
Yeah.
a physically very draining thing to do, but super rewarding and
You did
wonderful
like it?
team. I really loved it. I loved it. Yeah, it was good. But I mean, I loved it because I knew it was not something I was going to do for the next 2 decades. My husband was a chef for 23 years.
Oof.
It's physically, it'll break you.
Did he stay at Blue Hill?
He was at Blue Hill for 4 years. He also worked at Fleur de Sel after I left
Oh,
and went
funny.
into magazines for a while. But then he finally became a corporate chef so that we could see one another.
I was going to
Ah.
say, I
little
mean, how do
bit.
you even have a relationship? It's fine when you're
Yeah.
young, obviously,
Well,
I
and
guess.
when we met, we
but
both had that. We call them vampire hours.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
we would, work all night. We'd meet out afterwards at the bar and party and have a good time. We'd go home, we'd sleep till noon, and we'd go back to work at 1.
my
Oh, yeah.
And
gosh.
so we didn't see, you only see restaurant people when you do that
Yeah.
because those are nuts hours.
I
That's
used
crazy.
to just get high and go to Central Park all day and then go to my 3 p.m. shift,
Oh,
like
there you
at
go.
a bar.
Right. Yeah, and if I'd been
Yeah.
a server, and didn't have to go till 3, but we had to be there at 1, and
Okay.
and then you stayed later because you're cleaning up the kitchen and all
Sure.
that stuff.
And
so
everybody goes
they were
out.
long, yeah, but everybody goes out.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, not a normal. That's not sustainable either if you want to have a family, which
Yeah.
we did. So, so he eventually moved to corporate dining, and eventually altogether he left. He's a cabinet designer now, so he got out
Okay.
altogether.
What?
Yeah, long story. But I was cooking and I met him and it was really great. But then, very weirdly, I had a connection. My neurologist at the time, because I was having all the sounds weird. I went to a neurologist because I was having arthritis issues. But again, the cooking and the repetitive movement and everything else, we weren't sure what was going on. I was having numbness in my hands and things like that. And so I ended up going to see a neurologist. He knew someone who used to own Saveur magazine, which I don't know if you guys know, but
Oh yeah.
beautiful national food publication. It has since shrunk down to I think it publishes maybe 4 times a year now,
Oh,
maybe
so
6. I
sad.
can't remember. It's not what it was. At the time, Coleman Andrews was the editor-in-chief. They had the most amazing staff of writers, and they would go out into the world and collect these amazing recipes from home cooks all over, from India to China, wherever, and bring them back. And then they had a test kitchen where they would try to, translate the Nona's recipe into something that people could cook.
Ugh.
And I was so excited that he knew the former owner, my doctor made that connection for me. I had one phone call with Coleman Andrews, and I was allowed to come in again to do a free internship in the test kitchen because I had restaurant experience. And my boss still, to this day, we still, are in touch, and she would never have hired me without restaurant experience. So my professors were right.
Interesting. Okay.
So I thought I'd be a food writer. I went to culinary school. I cooked in restaurants. I finally made it into magazines through the test kitchen door. I mean, I, again, would not have been hired to just be an editor because I wanted to be. So I came in through the kitchen. So I got to they gave me, a Metro card and a long shopping list, and I would have to go to Jackson Heights for Indian ingredients, and I'd have to go down to Chinatown for live eels, and I learned the city so well.
How'd you get the live eels down the street?
You don't even know. This is one of my favorite stories. We were doing a story about Catalonian cooking, and they eat a lot of eels in Spain, in Catalonia, and we had to do a stew, again, back to stew, this beautiful eel stew. So I had to go down to Chinatown, and I had to buy a live eel, and they are strong, and they are lively. I mean, they are lively. So it was in a plastic bag, like double bagged with a nice top, tight knot at the top. But I had to take it back on the subway, and it was thrashing around.
Oh, how
on
big?
the
How
subway.
big is a live eel? Like,
I mean, we're
3,
I
4
don't know,
feet.
There's lots of different kinds of eels.
Yeah, I'm
but
just
there
saying.
are-
Well, what was
and
yours?
there's little tiny baby eels that are like pencils, and then there's like big
I'm
eels.
so grossed out right now.
Yeah.
I needed a medium-sized eel, as I recall. It fit into one of those, two-handled like plastic shopping
Have a nice
bags.
day, bags.
Plus, it
it's
was hard to
squared
carry
up.
when you had to stop for a
But
fake
it's like
Chanel in
moving.
Chinatown.
Oh my goodness! People were looking at me, and on the subway, people are moving away, and I'm like, wrestling with this stupid eel. So I get it back, and the way that you have to skin an eel.
Okay,
and
I'm really upset right now.
I don't want. Is she a vegan or something?
No, God,
I'm
no.
sorry.
I am. I'm
I'm
closer.
so sorry.
Yeah, no,
Well,
I'm
I
not.
might want to stop because
eels are close to snakes, and she hates
I
snakes. Like with
hammer is
everything in her
about to
life.
come in.
Strangely, I'm not
story.
afraid of eels. Like if I'm like diving or snorkeling or whatever, I'm fine with eels. But there's something about this story. Okay, keep going.
Oh, it gets so much worse. I
Keep
don't
going.
know
This
if I
is
should
great.
keep going.
Everyone's fine. Everyone's
Okay.
fine.
So the way you have to be able to pin them down, right? You can't be trying to cut something that's thrashing all over. And
Well,
it's
you
just
can't
the
kill it
electricity.
Why
first.
can't you just whack
Well,
off
it
its
was-
head?
The whole time they killed it there, but there's so much electricity in an eel's body that there's still, like instead of going straight into rigor mortis, they're still kind of thrashing.
Oh, okay.
So I should have been clear. So it was dead, but it's still moving. And it's still got a lot of strength and
so
like
that whole
electricity going
electric
through.
eel thing
It's
is
real. So I had to
Fascinating.
secure it to the cutting board, and the way you do that is you put a nail through its head. You
Yeah.
have to hammer it into
that
your
makes
cutting
sense.
board. So I did that, and so you can hold it still, and then you have to skin it, and then we cooked it. It was a very delicious recipe, delicious stew. I love eel. I recommend eel to everyone. Just maybe
Really?
don't prepare it for
Did
yourself.
you name
at home.
him? Were you like close to him?
No, God, no.
Okay, so you're
I was
obviously
in
not.
battle with this eel
Oh
the
my
whole time. There was
gosh.
no naming.
So you're obviously not squeamish in any way. I mean, you
Not
were a fish
really.
cook too, so you've seen some shit.
Oh, yeah.
So
And
like,
I love anything from the ocean. So
You do?
Yeah, I'm in.
now tell me. Let's just digress a little bit. Tell me about eels. Are they bottom feeders? Like, do we like eel? What's the deal with eel?
Well, eel, to my sad, I don't know that much about eel. I'm just going to start right
Okay.
there. I am not an eel expert. I absolutely
What?
love it for sushi, but it's supposedly not good because it's being caught in the wrong ways. And I mean, apparently, I have read you're not supposed to eat eel at sushi anymore.
Oh,
so
really?
It's not good for the
We're
planet.
not supposed to eat anything
I
anymore.
know. It makes me so sad.
I know. We screw everything up.
We
Okay.
do. We do. We're eating the planet dry. We're sucking all the everything out of the planet, including the eels. So don't eat any more nagi, even though I love it so much. It's like my dessert sushi.
Yeah, no, I love
save
it
for
too.
the
I don't do
end.
it.
Oh, I love it.
And
I
it-
shouldn't do it anymore.
So even freshwater eel, like all eel, no, just don't get them.
I don't want to be blanket statement. I can look up Seafood Watch and see what's what, but from
Okay.
what I'm
Maybe
understanding,
maybe
I don't
I'll
think
pull
eel's
myself together
the-
and do it in the show notes.
Yeah.
Eel protocol.
Yes or no on eel? I'll
Yes.
look it up. We'll
Okay.
have a stance
Okay.
by the end.
Okay.
Yeah.
But you are. I mean, that's kind of badass. Like you're just nailing the eel's head to a
I was.
table.
I
Like,
was. We had
Were
to
you
do
afraid? Do
a
they
lot
have
of
a
things.
brain? Were you afraid you were gonna like?
That's what you want to
spurt?
do. You want to kind of like get right through the head to try to tamp down that electricity. I'm so sorry.
Let's move on. Let's
Let's
find
move on.
some other things.
Point is, this job at Saveur was so great.
Okay.
I got to learn a lot. I got to learn about the city. I got to do all kinds of research on cool ingredients and
Well, and a test
cuisines
kitchen. I mean, how fun
and
is
test
that?
recipes. The goal was to test all these recipes perfectly, make sure that they work for the home reader. So that was a great job. And the internship luckily turned into an assistant editor position. And then my boss went out on maternity leave very quickly. Actually, she had to be put on bed rest. So all of a sudden, within a year, I was actually running the test kitchen, which was a bizarre turn of events and phenomenal. Only for a few
Amazing.
months while she was out, but it was
Yeah.
great. But then there was a big shakeup, as happens in media often. And we had gotten married. We went on our honeymoon, and I got back. And the art department had been fired, and the managing editor had been fired. And Coleman said, everybody get your resumes together. We don't know what's happening with Saveur. We don't, be ready.
Mhm.
So everybody started to leave. And I left too. I went and actually worked at Martha Stewart Living in their test kitchen.
Mhm.
So I was a food editor there. And at Martha Stewart, it wasn't collecting recipes from the world, it was creating them ourselves for Martha. They belonged to Martha then.
Did you meet Martha?
I met Martha.
And
Does
many
she talk
times.
does she talk really like this?
She has a low voice.
She has a very
She
low voice.
does.
That's
and
the
everything
least of
is
my worries.
intense. Oh yeah,
it's intense.
worrisome.
I mean, first of all, she's gorgeous, right?
She's a beautiful.
And she was like 94
brilliant
then.
woman.
Yeah.
Now she's like 106.
Yeah.
So my first day, I was in orientation. We had to stop the orientation to turn on the news because she was getting out of jail
Oh, with her
okay.
poncho.
that day
With
with
her
her poncho. She was being let out on home arrest the day I was hired, the day I began my job there.
And
So
then
that
so
was
ho-
interesting.
Wow. And then, so how long did it take for her to start coming into the office?
I don't remember. I met her probably a few weeks later.
Yeah.
And she was being, walked through the test kitchen, and everybody, we knew she was coming, and everyone had to like tidy up and
Sure.
get their shit together and like get ready. Martha was coming through, and so I got to meet her, but I made a mistake. I called her Ms. Stewart because that's how I was raised. I
Yeah.
mean, you meet especially someone famous and your boss, and you don't
Yeah.
automatically assume a first name basis. But apparently, she likes to be called Martha no matter what. So
she
was
does.
not
I wouldn't
happy
have.
with
That's
me
interesting.
in terms of that.
So we used to watch The Apprentice when
Mhm.
she was the person who everyone was working for. Remember that
Yeah,
one?
of course.
I'm like, it was The Apprentice, right?
Yeah.
It was like
If it wasn't our
post-Trump, I think.
president, then
Yeah.
it was Martha.
And I was Chris and I were like fascinated by her as a boss. She'd like walk into a room and be like,
I'm just gonna fix this plant right here.
Well, I mean, what was
she's,
she like? Was she
very
like inspecting your
detail-oriented.
kitchen? Was she
Oh,
like
totally.
grilling you guys? Like, is she?
She didn't grill me. I was introduced as, the new food editor, but I put my hand out and I said, "Oh, it's so lovely to meet you, Miss Stewart." And she kind of, I shouldn't tell this story on a podcast.
She's not listening to this.
No, I know, but in general, I try to keep these Martha stories, professional.
Sure.
She did. She slapped my hand out of the way. She
No!
did. She fully did. She slapped my hand out of the way. She did not want to take my hand. And she said, "Never when you're cooking. You don't know where my hands have been." And she walked away.
Oh, snap.
That's a
Never
quote.
when you're cooking, you don't know where
Never
my
shake
hands have
hands
been.
when
I
you're
mean,
cooking.
you can
But
wash
this was
your
for
hands.
a photo shoot also. I mean, it was for a photo shoot. I was
Yeah,
making
no one
cookies.
was eating that food.
Oh.
And, well, we all ate all the food. I mean,
Oh,
there
that
was
was my
nothing
next
fake.
question.
The food styling there. So that's what I did too. I really learned how to food style there.
Oh my
so
gosh,
we
that's so hard.
created the recipes, and then we would style them for the shoot. And I mean, it had to have the Martha aesthetic. It really had to be beautiful. So
I
I'm
mean,
learning
she was pre-IG
so
filters.
many wonderful things. Yeah, you know a
She's-
Martha Stewart
Photo,
image
yeah,
when
it's
you see
that.
it. It's like Donna Hay. They're just iconic.
Yeah.
Best art directors, best photographers.
Oh yeah.
I learned so much in the 2 years I was there that I have used still. The way I work with my art directors at every other magazine, it's really, you learn so much there. It's
And
very
making all
collaborative. It's
those
great.
recipes, like,
Yeah, it was
was
really
it
fun.
competitive? It was fun.
It was very competitive.
So
Like
were
with the
you-
other people you worked with?
So you're kind of hoping somebody totally bombs a recipe,
No,
or
but competitive for stories.
I put a nail in their cheesecake.
Right.
put salt in it.
Just kind of swap out some ingredients.
Yeah.
Take their beautiful berries, take their tray of berries they
Oh.
picked through for all the perfect berries
Oh
and
my gosh.
throw in like a box
No,
of
you
Driscoll.
didn't.
No, of course not. No, but I was not. I had made people mad before I even arrived because I was hired at an associate level, associate editor, and there were some assistant editors there who wanted a promotion, and I came in above them, and they did not like that.
Oh.
And
Yeah.
so there were some definite tricky dynamics there from day one. I cried a lot after
did?
work when I
Aw.
worked there. It was not an easy place. It trickle down is real, not in terms of economics, but in terms of company culture and things
Yeah.
like that. So if everybody's terrified of Martha, and they are, she's brilliant, she is demanding, she has high standards. So if you're afraid of her, then your boss is afraid and stressed, and then everyone around you is afraid and stressed. And I mean, it's a very intense place to work.
Let me ask you a question about Martha Stewart again.
Yeah.
Sorry. I know you're like, didn't plan on talking about her.
I-
Do you think as a mother now, looking back, do you think that Martha Stewart has hindered or helped moms in the sense
Great
of
question.
perfectionism?
I just think the bar there. I think it's not meant to make you feel bad about the way, none of the content she puts out into the world is supposed to make you feel bad. She is trying to help you do things better.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I can only speak for myself. Who could possibly aspire to that? I am thrilled that, I tried to learn how to fold a fitted sheet. I still don't know how to fold a fitted sheet.
I mean, no one does.
And I just kind of ball them up and put them in my closet,
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
every time I think about it, because I worked there, I should be able to do this. This is not hard. She has how-tos all over the place.
Yeah.
But her
Still
how-tos
can't
are
do
hard.
it.
I mean, that's a really good
I
question,
know.
Shay, because she was really the first that switch of competitive aesthetic lifestyle.
Almost like empowerment of the house of the what's the word I'm looking for? Domestic woman, like
empowerment, but
Houseway.
also raise the bar, like you were saying, so that your Christmas decorations couldn't just be last year's Christmas decorations. They had to have a theme, and you had to
Right.
have a goddamn
And your gingerbread house should be the
Yeah.
streets of, Prague.
yeah, and you need
and
it.
all
You
that.
need a
Right.
dining room tree, and and it needs to match your wrapping paper. And
I mean, that's just not the kind of mom I am.
Yeah.
I'm not
Mhm.
really all that DIY. I bake, and my son and I bake together, and that's where I do my kind of DIY. But we get our Halloween decorations at Target, and I
Sure.
don't make them, and I don't make his costumes, and so that Martha aesthetic is really. I mean, my family thought it was hilarious that I was working there.
don't you think now's
are
the
not
shift
crafty.
into comfortability? I think when she
Yeah,
first
this was a
popped
long
up and at
time
the
ago.
height of her popularity, I think there's a lot of pressure.
There
oh,
was,
yeah.
But it was supposed to be aspirational, right?
Yeah.
You were
Yeah.
supposed to say, okay, well, I might not be able to make Prague, a scene of, street scene of Prague and gingerbread, but I can, I don't know. Where does that leave you? I don't
should say a
know.
street scene of Prague. and
Literally, they
gingerbread.
did that one year.
Yeah.
It was actually beautiful. The people
I'm
there were
sure
so
it's
talented.
beautiful. Yeah.
Their
mean,
gingerbread story for that one December that I was on staff was literally the streets of Prague. It was gorgeous. I still buy my gingerbread house at Target, and we put it together,
don't
and
even
do
it's
one
delightful.
ever.
Oh, we love a
I
gingerbread house. in
the
my house.
Martha Stewart and Bon Appetit and
kit.
Savor are the only magazines. I keep all the holiday.
Savor.
Sorry,
Savor.
Savor. I keep all of the holiday. So I have vintage Martha Stewart magazines now from the
Aw.
90s that I've kept that I always drag out
Well,
every
I bet
Christmas
you
for
have some
ideas.
that I have content in. I bet.
oh my
I'm probably
gosh!
on the
oh
masthead.
my gosh! I am. You're
So
on
I
the.
was there.
I'm gonna look it
from-
up and put it. I'll
For
post it.
sure.
I was there from 2005 to 2007. So there you go.
I'm
Go
sure I
check it
have
out.
some. That's so fun.
I'm most proud of a what the heck were they called? It was like dinner in an hour, and there were these tear out recipe cards.
Oh, I used to use those
What's for
all the
dinner?
time.
So
Oh,
I did
yeah.
a Vietnamese themed one that I was very proud of. It turned out really well, and
That's
that's a pretty
awesome.
good. It's a good recipe. Yeah,
Wow.
it was like a beef noodle salad, and it was yummy.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny. I bet I've cooked your recipes. That's fascinating. Okay,
Hope
so
so.
so you're at Martha Stewart. You're crushing it. Everyone hates you.
Everyone hates me.
Continue.
Yeah, so everybody hated
but
me.
now you're married.
And Martha Stewart because she slapped your hand.
No, I wasn't. I was married, but
Yeah.
we did not have a kid yet.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
So, and started having trouble having kids there, perhaps because I was
stress.
so busy crying after work and whatnot.
I mean, you're
I
real
had my first
perky. Like you're a very positive person.
I try to be.
But like I even when you were talking about being like a chef or a cook, I was like, all I ever hear is like pain and heartache. I mean, did you cry a lot?
I didn't cry a lot in the restaurant.
didn't?
The
Okay.
restaurant, I was more competitive in the restaurant industry. So I went into the kitchen at Fleur de Sel, and there were the Fajardo brothers, where Luis and Carlos had been there for a really long time. They were on meat and fish. They were nice to me at first when I was on garde manger, when I was, below them. But then all of a sudden, my, sous chef said, we're going to try Denise on fish. And Carlos did not like that because he was meat, I was fish. We were next to each other. And he would, take my pan and move it over to the hot spot when I was turned around, and then something would burn. Like he would fuck me over. Well, I mean,
Wow.
that's pretty light. That's pretty light
That's
in terms
light?
of hazing. Oh yeah, that's pretty tame for the and we worked through it. And I would also then sabotage his pan the next chance I get. Like I did not want them to think that I could not handle it.
Sure.
So I also adopted a total. I mean, I talked like a crazy sailor. Like I was teaching all of them how to swear. I had to put on this kind of
Tough girl.
armor in the
Mhm.
restaurant to make sure. And I'm not a large physical person either, so I didn't want them to think that I was weak. I didn't want them to think I couldn't take it. I cut my fingernail off and I kept working, whatever, no big deal. Like you got to be tough. So I thought going into Martha, it's like, oh my God, like I know it's going to be a hard place to work, but I got this. Like what can they possibly do to me? Little did I know. I think female on female
Mhm.
hazing is very, very different. I knew what Carlos was upset about. He felt a little threatened. I didn't want his damn meat station. I was happy on fish. I was good to his brother. Like by the time I left, I was bringing my mom in for dinner and they were all hugging it out. And like we all love each other.
Yeah.
But they they pushed me in the beginning. Fair enough. Martha's different. 2 years of never, ever kind of cracking through. I never felt comfortable. I didn't
Yeah.
feel like myself. It was not fun. I remember the first holiday party, I got too drunk because I was nervous.
Sure.
And I went right up to this woman that was kind of one of my biggest problems. And I said, why are you always so mean to me? Like, what is your problem? And in true Martha style, she was like, I just don't like you very much. I'm like, well,
Wow.
Oh,
okay,
okay.
fine. But I could also understand I wasn't really myself when I was there.
Mm.
So,
And you were probably openly needy, which never works because
And-
you were
yeah,
trying to fit in or whatever.
absolutely.
Okay,
It just
wait.
was not a fun. I didn't feel comfortable. I wasn't at my best, so it wasn't fun. So I had
What's
to get
the
out of there.
worst thing that happened? What's the worst hazing story you have, really quick?
Well,
Like
I mean,
restaurant-
nobody told me not to call her Martha. So my first interaction, she slapped my hand. I could hear everybody laughing.
Oh my god.
People are giggling at me. I mean, they could have warned me about that.
Sure.
She
Yeah.
left, walked out. I'm standing there shell shocked.
Yeah.
Like, what just happened? Was that just how I met Martha Stewart? What is going on? Am I fired now? Like, what's happening? And, a nicer woman came over and she said, well, she doesn't like to be called Miss Stewart. I just thought, you assholes, somebody could have told me that. We all knew she was coming and I'm
Oh my
new,
gosh.
but they didn't want to do that. So,
Wow.
Wow.
yeah. So that was
Okay.
hard.
Okay, so at the same time, you're
So-
trying to get pregnant.
Trying to get pregnant, had my first miscarriage when I was there, ended up having 3. And it wasn't all that because we ended up leaving and, I left there and we actually moved to Connecticut and still we had an issue. It turned out it was other issues I will get to. So I was there for 2 years and I was so miserable and I thought I'm going to become a real estate agent. Like I can't do this
After
anymore.
all this hard work trying to be a food writer.
Well, they kind of brought me down. Yeah, I kind
Yeah.
of thought I wasn't good enough.
Oh, okay.
After being there for a while. And my boss had started out really loving me and said I was a good influence on the staff. I'm perky, right? I'm positive. Second review, she's like, I don't know why I hired you. You're not
Oh.
doing well. You don't get any more features till you start doing better, da da da.
Oh.
But without a lot
God.
of concrete, she turned on me. And so, it really seemed like I had to get out of there, but I was having a crisis of confidence. So I thought I'm going to do something else. Like maybe this wasn't the right thing. I should go do something else. But then luckily there was a job opening at Fine Cooking Magazine, which is located in Newtown, Connecticut. And they were looking for an assistant editor and not in the test kitchen. And I thought, you know what, maybe I just need to stop testing recipes. That wasn't really the goal. The goal was to write. I'd like to write more. So I applied for this job, was actually turned down. They said, oh, you're a great candidate. We can have a phone call, but we're actually in the process. We're like at the end, we're hiring someone. So we had a nice phone call and I was sad. But then 2 months later, they called back. The woman they had hired couldn't get it together, couldn't find schooling for her kids. Something happened. She wasn't ready to move to Connecticut. She didn't take the job. I got the job.
Oh.
Okay.
So I gave notice at Martha instantly. I mean, like, got the phone call. We'd like
Peace
to hire
out,
you.
bitches.
I went to my desk. I wrote my resignation letter,
Yeah.
turned it in. 2 weeks later, we're moving to Connecticut, and I worked at Fine Cooking for 7 years
Oh, wow.
as a story editor. So I took a demotion to do that, to get out of the kitchen, went from associate back down to assistant editor there, then became associate and worked my way up to senior editor there and had the best time. And it was wonderful. And it was, as I was saying before, it was all recipe work. Fine Cooking is a magazine for home cooks.
Mm.
So every day we would go over to the test kitchen, which was in a different building, and try these recipes that the story editors, including myself, had gotten from cookbook authors and chefs and wonderful, recipe developers. And, it was, we'll do a story on, I don't know, the best roast chicken, or we'll go to Dan Barber and get a bunch of carrot recipes from him. And we made sure that they worked perfectly and that home cooks knew everything they needed to know to be better.
Let's specify for our audience, because there is very much a difference between calling somebody a cook and calling somebody a chef.
Absolutely.
So will you explain?
And I was only ever a cook, so I never ran a kitchen.
Okay.
To be a chef, you have to run a professional kitchen.
Okay.
I was a cook. I cooked in restaurants. I had a line cook job, and then I was a cook, a food editor. I was a cook in a test kitchen. But my husband, he was in a management position in a kitchen. He was a sous chef. He was an executive sous chef. He was a chef de cuisine. These are, where you are managing other people. That's how you become a chef, to me. I mean, and I would think to most restaurant workers.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Just wanted to
So I was
clarify.
just a cook.
That was something I learned.
Yeah.
Is there, I always wondered, I mean, obviously you have to, not everyone can eat out all the time, and you don't have to have home cooks, but like, I always wondered if editors and people who were coming up with these recipes actually kind of thought down to like the little people like me that like devour the recipes and want to cook like that. Like, is there?
Well, it depends on what outlet you're writing for, or
Okay.
where you are, right? So at Saveur, we all knew most people were not going to make most of those recipes. These incredibly elaborate curries from India, or go
That's
down
what
and buy
Bon
an
Appetit
eel,
is like.
and,
Yeah,
cook an
it's-
eel and make this
Right.
Catalonian stew. Saveur to me, and at the time, seemed more like that. Again, aspirational. Justin, I want to travel through food. I want to
Mhm.
read about this. I'll read the recipe. Are you going to go get an eel and make it? How many people made that recipe? I don't know, maybe 10. That wasn't really the point of Saveur. Martha, are you going to make Prague street scene and gingerbread? Maybe not, but maybe you'd make the gingerbread cookies, or some of you'd follow the cupcakes, or the slightly more down market, or you would really push yourself for the holiday and make some outrageously beautiful thing that she made, or that we made on her behalf. That's why there was also the what's for dinner, here's how to make a whole menu in an hour. There were all different kinds of stories, but a lot of that stuff is aspirational. Fine Cooking, the whole point was that you would make this stuff. There were more complicated recipes, but the recipes look longer than they even are, because we tell you everything. We don't just say cook it for 15 minutes. We say, or we would say, clearly I'm still working there. We cook it until the exterior is crisp and browned about this much time. There was always an indicator, and we made sure that you would never feel lost. You would feel like we were right there with you in the kitchen, so you could make it.
She just said that, and I got like panic attack.
Yeah, Shay hates cooking.
Oh no!
I don't like following recipes. I like you just said that, and my brain was like, but I have 3 things going over here, and how do I know that it's brown on the outside?
But you
and,
know what? Like, a good recipe tells you the order of operations, so that the 3 things all take place at the right time, and one is going, and you don't need to worry, so you can check on the second thing.
Yeah, but I'm very busy cleaning up at the same time.
Yeah, she has
Right?
a lot of
Sure.
anxiety around.
No, I understand. And that's what we were trying to help with too.
Yeah.
All different levels of recipes, but also everything you need to know. So if you just read it once before you started, you would know what was going to happen. You would know what to look for. You know, there would be a time and a visual clue. Like, we would get you there.
And key to that is
We should
reading
cook
the
together.
recipe before you start, because
That is
I
really
am
key.
famous
Oh,
Yep.
yeah.
for being 3/4 of the way through and being like, what? I
Wait,
need to do
this has
what?
to rest for, or I have to
I was
marinate
supposed
this for an hour? Shit, no.
I
Yeah.
do it
Yeah.
all. It drives
Yeah.
all my friends are like, please read the recipe before we come
if
over.
there's literally one tip I would give anyone cooking at home ever, it's just read the recipe start to finish. My husband even does this.
Oh
He
my
likes
gosh,
to
it's a
follow the idea of a recipe,
Yeah, that's
right?
how I
He
am.
loves Bon App, right? Bon
Yeah.
Appetit. He'll read it. Okay, great. He'll
Got it.
shop the recipe, but he doesn't actually read the instructions. So then I look and I'm like, oh, we're having a stew. We're having stew tonight that takes 2 hours to cook. How are we having this by 6:15? Like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You gotta just read the recipe, even if you only do it once before you plan the rest of the meal.
Yeah, my husband
Yeah, I'm
does all the
terrible
cooking.
about
He's
that.
really good about it.
And was there when you were at Fine Cooking, I know this is like we're getting a little bitchy in this episode, but I can't help it. Like, was there another competitive magazine that your guys were like, oh, those recipes are crap. Like they don't know what they're doing. Because I feel like you were kind of at the rise of like Rachel Ray and
Yeah.
Real Simple and
Yeah.
all those like kind of bringing it down to the level of the hoi polloi type magazines were and you know, and someone is like myself who cooks and kind of devoured all those magazines. I could kind of quickly tell which ones were, I felt like were talking down to me or were just full of shit. Like there was no way I was gonna ever like sever. Like
Yeah.
why can't I
Sever.
say it?
It's hard.
Sever.
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 Surgical magazine.
Sever.
Uh,
You know, I was never going to cook those. I always
Right.
loved reading the stories, but I never cooked.
or
out
like
of
the
it.
healthy cooking magazines that came out, right? And then you're like,
Like
wow, look at
Eating
this.
Well.
I can make this. And then it just tastes like nothing.
Yeah.
There's nothing.
Unfortunately.
There's no butter in
Well,
it.
we used to joke. Fine cooking was like all. It was practically Paula Deen. Like
Oh,
we used
just
the
a
butter.
stick of butter.
We used the salt.
Yeah.
We wanted everything to taste great. We were not out there to help you with your nutrition. We just wanted you to cook at home. And here's the most glorious, scallop potatoes ever. And it had a stick of butter in it. And we were not trying to be a healthful magazine. We were trying to just get you into the kitchen. I mean, the ones we used to read, we always, we were all over whatever Rachel Ray was doing, Eating Well. We like to think that Fine Cooking was like Cooks Illustrated or
Yeah.
America's Test Kitchen, but with color photos and a little bit more lifestyle thrown into it. That stuff is incredibly scientific, right? Like they test everything a gajillion times. We tested everything a gajillion times, but not to figure out the science necessarily behind it. We knew that, but we weren't trying to intimidate with all the scientific reasons. And every story we wrote was not, I wanted to make this with a crispy skin, but it usually is soggy. So this is what I did to get it crispy. That's the narrative arc of a America's Test Kitchen story. I have a
Right.
problem with the dish. Here's what I did to fix
Mhm.
it. It took this many tries. This is where we ended up. We tried to be a little bit less pedantic than that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so Fine Cooking 7 years. You're trying to get pregnant.
Yes. So
All those 7 years.
No, let's see. I started there in 2007. We finally had our son in 2010. But I had 3 miscarriages along the way. It ended up being baby aspirin. I just needed to be on baby aspirin. It was like a blood clotting issue that doesn't affect my personal health, but was definitely getting in the way of our carrying a baby to
Oh,
term.
I've never heard of that. Do you mind if I ask how
Of
far
course.
along you were?
So let's see. Once it was only like 7 weeks, and again, I was always really regular, so we knew, and we were
Sure.
trying, and we
Yeah.
were going through these things with our doctor, so we really knew so early, too early in a way.
Yeah,
because
but
then it
also
was so
just
real.
when you say only 7, I mean, you would still have,
There was a heartbeat,
even if you have
always.
like a day of thinking you're having
Yeah.
a child,
Yeah.
it's meaningful. So I didn't
And I
mean
knew
to-
it like 2 weeks because I was incredibly regular.
Yeah.
And like the minute I missed a period, like again, no problem getting pregnant. So we just knew right away.
Mm.
So there was always so much loss there. Yeah, I think the longest we went was 10. So we never really even got out of the first trimester. And the first time we didn't know why. The second time they said, okay, we're going to put you on these baby aspirin. The third time was a fluke, and there was actually a genetic issue. They did the testing, and there was a genetic issue. So, but kept trying, kept going for it because I always wanted to be a mom. I was like a mom when I was, 5. Like I just always, that was just part of, what I wanted to do with my life. So we stuck to it, and we had our son in 2010. Sam.
Yeah, we had our daughters in
Yeah.
2010, our first.
It's a good
I
year.
know.
Yeah.
That's a good year.
It was
Yeah.
a really good year. Yeah.
So then how did you
Actually, no, it wasn't. That was a terrible. Let's all be honest for a
There's
second,
like
right? Aren't we
3
supposed to be honest?
miscarriages.
We had all these miscarriages, and then I had him, and it was this horrendous labor, and he ended up having to come out with a C-section after like exhausting myself trying to get him out the other way. Yeah, and then it was really, really hard. I couldn't breastfeed. I couldn't make enough milk, and I had postpartum, and it was that actually 2010 was
So a shit
rough.
year.
I was thrilled, but it was rough.
Yeah.
I tell every friend. I mean, now most of my friends have had babies, but you're surviving that first 6 weeks. All that hippy dippy. Oh, lovey, it's so wonderful. You have a newborn. It is survival.
Yeah.
You need to stay alive. To me, I had to keep myself alive. I had to keep my kid alive. But it wasn't that enjoyable until at least 6 weeks in. I had to go on antidepressants. All
Yeah.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was blue.
Yeah.
I was blue.
And you took time off work.
Yes, I did.
Were
Yeah.
you worried about going back at all or
Well, I was. I mean, did not live. My family was in New York City. My mother-in-law came out and stayed with us for a month so that she could
Oh.
be with him. And when I went back to work, so I took 4 months. The last month of which was completely unpaid, but I figured this might be
Yeah.
my only shot. She came out and stayed with him until he was 5 months, and then he went into daycare, and he's been in care ever since. Little trooper.
Little trooper.
Yeah. Now he's going to be 10.
And now, oh my gosh,
In the
that's
spring.
crazy.
Yeah.
So when did you? Well, because I can only speak from my own experience. I had a baby in New York City, and when she was 6 months old, was like, gotta go, and moved to Denver. And obviously,
Well, we were in Danbury, Connecticut. So
Okay.
when we had Sam.
yeah, but Connecticut's still
I know.
it's part of the tri-state crazy.
Is it? I feel like
East
Connecticut
Coast.
is just like oak trees and freaking tea.
Well,
like
the
in-
nice parts.
yeah.
We were in Danbury, which, if you are familiar at all, is the highway exit where the mall is. It was a suburb. It's
Okay.
literally a suburb of New York.
Yeah.
I mean, it was
Oh,
all
okay.
Red Lobster and the mall and,
Mhm.
Whatever. We did not love living there, honestly. We were there because it's where we could afford to live in the state. And then my commute to Newtown, which is where the magazine is, was, about 20 minutes. And my husband at that point worked down in Stamford. So we both were
Right.
commuting to other parts of the state. It was very expensive. Our house,
Yeah.
we bought our house in December of 2007, which was right before everything crashed.
Mm.
So our house, we lost a ton of money on the
Oh my
house.
gosh.
And pretty much from 2011, I would say, to 2014, when we ended up coming to Denver, we were looking. We were trying to figure out, like, if your family lives in a really expensive place, like, for instance, San Diego, where my
Mhm.
mother-in-law is, or New York City, where my family is, where else do you go if not for a job? Like, do you just pick a
You
place?
just, yeah. Do you
You
just,
just take out a map
Right.
and kind of wing it?
seriously?
So if we were going to leave family, which we were, we couldn't afford to live in San Diego, so we weren't going to family either. We were just trying to figure out what we could do career-wise to get us
Mm.
somewhere else out of the tri-state area. It was too expensive.
Well, let me clarify too, because now I've made a lot of people mad.
Oh,
If there are many people who have children in New York City and
Oh,
are
yeah.
fine.
my sister, she's
my
nuts.
my brother lives there.
Yeah.
They've got a kid. They live in Park Slope. Life is great.
Oh, my
I wasn't-
nieces live in a sunroom though. They converted a sunroom into
Yeah.
their bedroom.
It's
They're
not easy
outgrowing
living.
that
It's
apartment.
No.
amazing.
And my
Yeah.
niece they live in a railroad, and
Yeah,
her bedroom is
exactly.
behind their bedroom. You
Yeah.
know, there are things that you choose to be okay with if
Mhm.
unless you have a lot of money, which is a whole other thing. But I didn't mean to be like, who would raise a kid in New York? I just
No,
had
not
my baby
because
there
of
and
any
was
morals,
like, I can't
because
do
of
it.
literally logistics. I
Mhm.
mean, it is the subway, and it
Ugh.
is not necessarily doing your laundry in your own apartment, much less building, much less. I mean, it is
My landlord used to have to hold the
difficult.
baby while I went to change laundry across
sure,
the street.
absolutely. I mean, it is a very complicated place. My nieces are thriving. They are 5 and 8.
Mhm.
They're going to make it, but they live in a sunroom, and
Mhm.
that it is
And it's
tight.
sunny in there.
Yeah, really hot. I mean, they're
It's
sweating
very-
all the time.
No, it is. I just always think like, it's hard to even get like a 12-pack of toilet paper from a store to your apartment.
Oh yeah, you don't.
You
need
And
to
you
go
don't buy
there.
12 packs.
You don't
in
have
New
room
No,
York
for it.
you
'cause
don't have
there's
the
nowhere
room.
to put it. Yeah.
So I mean, but then what do
There's
you
no
do with
Costco
diapers? I mean, I'm
runs.
so
Exactly.
impressed with like, big city moms because
Mhm.
it is a whole. It's
Yeah.
a struggle from the minute you wake up till the minute you go to sleep.
Well, and
I
now
think.
she's running to 2 different schools to pick them up, and
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, and that's all on the subway or by foot, and it's.
I will
not
say though
easy.
that when Georgia was little enough that I could wear her, it was actually way easier than
Mhm.
baby life in car life. Does that make sense?
totally.
Like when I could just throw her on and get on the subway or go to a bar, go to
Yeah.
a restaurant and still be living that life because she was little enough, but she got heavy really fast.
Yeah,
And like then I started, then I was up the stairs with
Oh gosh.
the stroller.
absolutely.
And everyone, either nobody helped you or too many people helped you and you're just pissed,
right.
It just
My sister, she has become she's been there since college in New York
Mhm.
City. She loves how non-car culture it is. I mean,
Mhm.
Sure.
they were literally just here for a long weekend. We went up to Snow Mountain Ranch. We had such a great time, but she can't get over the fact that you're getting in your car for almost
Mhm.
everything in Denver. Yeah.
Right, exactly. So, you got to make
And
that
that-
trade off.
for
But we
sure.
were happy. We did not the goal was never to have kids in New York. So
Mhm.
the job came about before we had kids. It was great. The job in Connecticut, we were happy to get out. The problem was it wasn't the pretty part of Connecticut, and there wasn't much there. We didn't want to stay. So we were trying to figure out where else to come.
yeah.
Where else could we live? And I was also in a print magazine, right? And all these ups and downs with print and food media. And so we thought at the time okay, I had an opportunity to apply to a job here in Denver. That's what ended up bringing us here for a company that was called Craftsy at the time. Ironic too, because
Oh,
again, I am not
oh my
crafty at
gosh,
all.
I know
Do you know
Craftsy.
Craftsy?
Yeah.
So they have they make videos for enthusiasts, right?
Mhm.
So if you are a photographer or a painter or a ceramicist or whatever, they make all this wonderful content for you. And they had cooking and baking classes. We call or at Craftsy you call them classes. It's actually not even called Craftsy anymore. Now it's called Blueprint. NBC bought
Oh,
it,
I didn't
and it's called
realize
Blueprint.
that.
Yes.
Okay.
Which is interesting too, because Martha used to have a magazine called Blueprint.
Yeah, I remember
that I
Blueprint.
worked on. We all worked
I
on all
loved
of
that
her
magazine.
on all of her publications. Now she no longer has that. So they took Craftsy took the name Blueprint, but they took the E out. So it's just BLU.
Uh-huh.
Print.
Oh, that
Anyway.
sounds like a vape pen.
Well, nobody was really happy with that name, but
Sounds like a
it does.
vape pen.
And it's hacks Blueprint. So anyway, we came out here because I thought, oh, I'm going to go digital. Like it's crazy to stay in print. What is the long-term play here? So we came out to Denver after just one interview. I mean, I was at the Curtis Hotel, the Craftsy offices at 18th and Curtis and DIA, and we had to decide, sure, okay, Denver, it seems
my
nice.
gosh.
People seem to like it. I know how to ski. I don't know. Yeah, let's do it. Great, Denver. So we moved to Denver in 2014 so I could work at Craftsy. And my husband came out and he was able to find a corporate chef job here, but it was pretty miserable. It was essentially like a cafeteria situation,
Mm.
which is very not good enough for him. And he was not happy. So that's when we moved here. He went back to school a little bit and figured out a way, and he became a cabinet designer. So that was great. That's not the point. The point is, to get to food editor, I came out here to work for Craftsy. I was doing video work, cooking and baking videos for them for a couple years, and then I met the former food editor for 5280. And Craftsy was an intense place to work, a startup, and a lot of hours and
All that content, and it's
and
like
all that
relentless.
content
Yeah.
and very, it was a very intense job, a great job that I loved. And I wasn't looking for anything else, but I literally met Amanda Faison, who was the food editor, and we met up at Aspen. I was up there for Craftsy, and we met at the Food and Wine Classic, and we started hanging out because we both lived in Congress Park. And she one day said, you know what, I'm moving up to the mountains. Would you come back to print? Would you consider? You should apply for this. You really should. And I couldn't help myself. It was too great. I subscribed to 5280 the moment we
Yeah.
moved here. I still subscribe to New York Magazine. I love
Mm.
city magazines, and I would not have gone back to national. Like honestly, if Bon
Mhm.
Appetit, God love them, they are doing the most amazing things. But if they knocked on my door right now, even as successful as they are, I just don't think national food media nationally is a luxury, and it's great. And there's a hardcore base out there, but I mean, you need 5280, I think, to live in Denver well. I just think there's a little bit more relevance there. So I did. I came back to print, and here I am. Now I'm back in print.
And
3
you got
years.
your dream job.
And I did. And the reason it's my dream job is because the whole time, even back in the 2000s when I wanted to go to culinary school, yes, I love helping people cook better. But after 10 years of doing recipe stories, here's the best way to make
Mhm.
this, or here's an entertaining story, or whatever, I knew how to do that in my sleep. And even at Craftsy, it was the same content, right? How do you cook better or bake better at home? I knew how to do that now in video and in print. And that was like, oh, am I just going to keep doing this forever? At 5280, we don't really do recipes.
No.
That's not why people come to us at all. I'm working on an entertaining story for December, but still, most of our stuff is the opposite. It's all the stories of the producers and the restaurants and the chefs and the ingredients in Colorado. And so it's everything I have not had a chance to do until now. And I love it. It's great.
That's so awesome.
That's
And your
so
son
awesome.
is in what grade?
Now he is in 4th grade.
Okay. And
Yeah.
he's obviously in school now and doesn't have to be in daycare.
He doesn't want to be. He just told me today he
Oh.
really would rather not go to school. But since that is illegal, and he really has got to get the
'Cause that is
multiplication
illegal.
together.
I mean,
multiplication.
know.
God help us.
And so your
Yeah, he's in
hours, I'm
school.
assuming that you probably have to go to a lot of restaurants and
I
do a lot
do.
of and
So
how does that
here's a-
affect your mommyhood?
Exactly. Here's a glimpse into my mommyhood. Last night on the weekend, the way our family, only way we can function, because my son gets hangry and I get hangry and all that, is if we have a plan. We shop. We know what we're going to make on which days. We look at my calendar very specifically. Okay, what days is mom home? And what days is it dinner just dad and Sam? And what days am I thrown into the mix? And what days are we going out? Because I take them with me whenever I possibly can.
Mhm.
And we pay for Sam separately, and then the magazine can cover me and one other mouth. So that's typically my husband, Bill's. So we figure out what days we're home and what we're doing. We pick the recipes. We shop it on the weekend. So like we know there's no coming home and what are we gonna have for dinner tonight? Because that's just a recipe for disaster and everybody's mad.
That's its
and
own
hungry.
kind of recipe.
It's horrible. But he said to me yesterday, we were going over this. It was kind of late in the weekend, obviously, because he had off yesterday and my family was here. So yesterday we were doing our shopping and planning. And he said, my husband said, when are you here? I said, oh, I'm home. I'm home like almost the whole week. I'm home Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday night this week. And Sam's like, wait, what? You're home Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday? He goes, well, that's a first.
Oh gosh.
I'm like little stab to
Yeah.
the heart there. So yeah, I try to have a rule. I won't be out more than 3 nights a week without them. But then I still have other dining to do and stuff, so I bring them with me. Luckily, Sam is very well restaurant trained.
I was gonna say, so is he like? There's no mac and cheese and
Well, he loves mac and cheese.
well, sure, but
yeah.
like, I mean, is he a good eater? Like,
a
does
pretty
he
good eater.
eat at these restaurants?
Well, honestly, when I got the job, we sat him down because he's always been a good eater of the things he likes, right? So that's any kid. But we sat him down and said, look, we either have to figure out a way to get a lot more sitters, which you aren't gonna like. If you want to come with us, you have to eat more things. At the time, 3 years ago, he wasn't that into tacos or sandwiches, or he just had weird things he didn't really want to bother with. He said, you gotta branch out. You gotta try more things, and you gotta do it if you want to come with us, or you're gonna have a lot of sitters. Which honestly, we couldn't have afforded, but we were trying to draw a line in the sand. So now he's a way.
If you want to
better
see your
eater
mother, you
than
have to
ever.
learn to
Exactly.
eat.
You want to come to dinner with us. So he's a great eater. He doesn't eat everything, and there's certain high-end restaurants where it would not be fun or proper reporting to bring a kid. So we still have a lot of sitters, but we have some good ones, and we take him wherever we can. And then my husband is wonderful. I mean, I couldn't do this job if he wasn't. He's more of a homebody, and he's a bit of an introvert, so he's pretty happy to stay home with Sam most of the time. He makes sure that I know where he wants to eat, and then he has to come on those reporting trips. But my husband stays home with my son a lot in the evening, which I couldn't do this job if he wasn't able to do that.
And this is like decades now of you and food. Do you ever
Yeah.
get tired of food?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I don't really have a choice, right? Like, I can't go on a cleanse. I can't really stop drinking. I try to not drink so much at home anymore, although I have this spectacular bar filled with gorgeous bottles.
Oh my gosh!
But it's the only thing I can really control because I don't have to eat everything, the whole plate, right? I bring home a lot of leftovers, but if we're working on a, Mexican food story, I don't get to say, you know what, I'm sick of tacos. I don't feel like eating any more tacos, which has actually never happened. But, I have
To
no
anyone
choice.
ever.
Right, ever. But do I want to constantly be eating the amount and the exact foods I'm eating? I have no control. In fact, my assistant food editor last year left 5280, and we were both kind of having this moment of like, you get to eat whatever you want.
Oh,
Like
yeah.
you get to cook. If you're not hungry, you don't have to eat dinner. There are some days when I have to go to a bakery, and then I have a lunch tasting, then I have to do another thing, and then I have a dinner. Like, it's gross. And then I feel terrible 2 days after that.
But you're
So,
still
yeah.
eating.
But
for
I
those
still have
2
to do it.
days.
Yeah, I don't get to stop really. So my fear, my night terror is that I develop some sort of dietary
Yeah.
issue, that I develop an ulcer, that something prevents me from continuing to consume
And do you have
the
to
way I need to.
work out a lot to?
Oh God, all the time.
Yeah.
a lot. A lot. When I started, the minute I got the job, before I even started the job, I was in like a Pilates phase at that time, and I realized I had to kind of step it up.
Step up the calorie burning.
I don't want to have to buy new pants. So yeah, I am very lucky. I have a great metabolism. I don't eat every single thing on the plate. You just can't do that. I learned that at Fine Cooking. We had tastings every afternoon. Every afternoon, there were at least 2,000 or 3,000 calories being like thrown at
Oh
us.
my gosh.
You can't eat all of it. You have a few bites and you move on. You can't eat it all. So my husband gets a lot of leftovers, and I exercise every morning at the crack of friggin' dawn.
Do you really?
I do. This morning, 5:15, I get up,
Woof.
and by 5:25, I'm in the basement because nobody can see me, and I do daily burn on my Apple TV.
Just
I love it.
That's good.
What's
Just,
Daily Burn?
Oh, I'm like a commercial for Daily Burn.
Do we
Great.
need
Can
to
they
get them to
sponsor us?
the
It's
podcast?
Daily Burn. Are you listening? No, it's a monthly subscription, and you get a new workout every day. And then there's a whole library of programs. You can do dancing, and you can do Pilates and whatever. And there's like just thousands of workouts and nobody can see me. And I can do a half hour. I can do 2 of them. You know, you can work out as much as you want. They have modifications. You can go harder or less. I mean, I sweat my butt off down in my basement. And then I don't have to pay for a gym or go outside or do anything.
Go outside.
So if there's one trendy food item you wish you never had to eat again, what would it be?
Well, it's not trendy at all. It's like a class. I'm not a big egg eater.
Oh.
So to introduce myself to 50 to 80 readers, I actually wrote an essay about how I'm a food writer who does not like eggs very much at all. So I can eat them. I would really rather not. And honestly, I will never eat a deviled egg. I won't do it.
Oh.
And
Shay
at Martha,
and I live off
also,
deviled
deviled
eggs.
eggs.
and at Martha, they made me do a deviled egg story, a whole story, 6 deviled egg recipes, which
Were
was
they just
totally
fucking with you?
hazing, completely hazing
You will write a
me.
story about deviled eggs.
It was disgusting. But
They're
I
so
don't know.
delicious.
No, they're not.
Shay and I have
They're
eaten
not.
them. I think
Our
there's if
share.
we're ever at a restaurant that has deviled eggs on the menu, we will
Almost always
order it.
order it. Yeah.
Well, have you been to American Elm yet? Which I passed on my way here because they have amazing deviled eggs. So people tell me because I don't want to eat them myself.
no, where is that?
Oh, it's brand new. So the way back,
Oh, yeah.
38th.
I
it
didn't
used
realize
to
it
be there.
opened. Yeah.
It's reopened now as American Elm. It's very, very delicious.
Okay.
It's a former Garden Grace chef, Brent. Are you ready for his last name?
Mm-hmm.
Turnipseed.
Shut
His
up.
name, his real given name is Brent Turnipseed. So he had to become a chef.
I
That's
mean,
amazing.
And it's meant to be. And the food is great. And they actually have brunch. They just started brunch. And they have, instead of avocado toast, they have a deviled egg toast. They take their deviled egg filling and they smear it on toast and put yummy things on top. I had a bite of that. I couldn't. It's the whites I don't like. I can
Cut
handle
to
the
Denise
yolks.
just sitting here by herself, empty microphones.
They
Tracy
left.
Shay
We're
just out the
gone.
door.
What else are we going to talk about today?
We're out of
That's
here.
They're gone.
funny.
No, it's great. Everyone go to American Elm.
Okay.
Oh.
Yeah.
I'm a fan.
And is there okay? So and then you just can't say, oh, I don't eat eel or I don't eat.
No.
You know, you
no.
have to eat. So you eat everything
I eat everything except, a deviled egg.
except a deviled egg. And what's the weirdest, most like? What's the thing that you like? You know, everyone's into bone marrow. Like, is there something that like is
I'm
super gross that you should like because you're where you are as a food editor and you just can't palate it?
Well, one thing that I really do like, but I don't want to eat anymore and is on every single damn menu is octopus because
Oh.
they're really smart and they're
They're
these
sentient,
wonderful
yeah.
creatures. And we cannot possibly eat any more octopus than we already do. I would like us to eat less octopus, but I actually
Okay.
love it. And my
Yeah.
husband loves it and he always orders it. I'm like, really?
Oh,
Yeah, that one's hard
did you read
for
that
me.
book?
I didn't read the book. So
Oh.
someone gave me shade recently because I haven't seen Forks Over Knives, that documentary.
Oh.
I feel like I know enough to
I
eat
mean,
responsibly without overloading myself with more guilt than I already have. I mean,
Sure.
I can't watch those things. I need to still eat meat for my job. I
Yeah.
can't if I get too deep into knowing what's going on.
Also,
I mean,
like,
I
what
know
do you
what's
wanna do
going
on your
but
free
what am I going
time?
to do?
It's like people who are like, oh, did you see this comedy special? I'm like, no, I didn't because I just
Exactly.
saw 5 comedy shows this week, and I like,
Yeah.
no.
Well,
No,
and I
didn't.
read about food and I watch
Yeah.
the food. I watch as many food shows as I can and all that. But yeah, I got to read some fiction. I got to unwind
think
and
about
not
food.
do food here and there where I can,
Right.
which is not often. Not often at all.
you're just always eating.
Pretty much. Or reading about food or yeah.
Wow.
It's pretty funny. It's a great job though. I get to eat things, I get to meet great people and then write stories about them. Like that's really fun. It's really, really
And
fun.
so, what is your thoughts about all of the Instagram and all the food bloggers and people who didn't and the influencers who didn't put their time in like you did and cut their teeth and test kitchens and
It's
stuff.
not even about that. I think what gets me about that, from what I understand from the people I know in PR and in restaurants are strapped, right? They're strapped for time and money and they don't have staff now and they're trying to do all these things. And I think if you are an influencer and people are following you and you're leading them to good places based on your experience, that is one thing. I mean, that is in a nutshell what I do. But what we pride ourselves on in 50 to 80 is that we go out and we eat the thing. We pay our own way. We do not take free food and drink. And influencers tend to have a different model where, yes, can I come in and try your new happy hour menu? And you give them everything for free and they take one picture and they expect, the world. And these restaurants, their margins are slim. Some are fine with that, but others, these influencers want everything, and they're going to take a picture and they're going to post it and be like, "Woo, I had a drink." I don't know, just for people to be following those kinds of recommendations, which might not be based on true opinion, or food is incredibly subjective. But if you're just getting free stuff and then saying, go here because I got all this great free stuff, that bothers me, because we do the opposite.
Yeah, that's crazy. So you guys pay for everything.
We do.
Wow.
We pay for everything.
It keeps you honest.
It keeps me honest, and it keeps us without owing anybody anything. But it's also a miracle. I mean, the fact that our magazine prioritizes our food coverage that way to actually put a budget behind it is rare. It's a rare and beautiful thing in food media.
And what happens when you just hate a restaurant?
Then we don't write about it.
And
in fact, so we have a restaurant reviewer, because again, back to what my mother originally thought, I don't review restaurants. I have to make that list that is on newsstands now, which gets pretty close to restaurant reviewing, in that I'm making selections and I choose who we cover and who we don't. But for the most part, I'm not a reviewer, and my role in our restaurant reviews is to tell our critic where to go. Like, I think this place is great. This is an important opening. I've had a good experience there. Please go and review it. The problem is when he goes and he doesn't like it, or his experience was different. And so then we can end up, when we have a bad review in 5280, it's because I sent Scott somewhere that I thought he would, not that I thought he would love it, but that I thought was doing a good job. So it's always actually a compliment. But if he doesn't like it, I don't change his opinion at all. We run what he feels. So sometimes we have some unpleasant reviews or harsh reviews that are really meant to help everybody improve. And it's just based on his opinion. Again, it is subjective, but he is our reviewer, and he doesn't like everything that I send him to try.
I mean,
so
how
we
could
end
you?
up in a
Right.
tricky place. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. Well,
Wow.
thank you so much for letting us kind of dig into the
Milf you.
world of a what?
Well, thanks for letting us milf you.
Yeah, we
I'm
milked
so
you.
honored.
Yeah, it's so fun. I love getting to ask a food writer these questions.
I
Like,
know.
it's things that you always kind of think in your brain, but we finally
How
had
does it all
a
come
live
to the
one. We had a live
page?
eel here.
I'm wriggling. I'm
She's
wriggling
wriggling
around on the
around
couch.
with
Can
many
right
you
now.
get live
questions.
eel in Denver?
You
Well, they're not alive.
can't.
They're
yeah.
just
Well, I mean,
Well,
no, they
no,
killed
they
them.
are.
It was at when I bought
It was
it.
alive.
They killed it at the fish shop.
It doesn't have that
so
much
how did they
electricity.
kill it? Took it out of the water.
I don't know. I didn't see it. Yeah. They went back.
Yeah, how did
whacked
they
it
kill
around.
it?
I don't know.
Injection.
They probably just, honestly, they probably held it by the tail and like thwapped its head on the counter really hard.
That's how you kill a fish.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's an intense thing being a carnivore or a,
Yeah.
omnivore.
I'm definitely a
Food chain.
omnivore, carnivore. I'm a meat eater. I don't think I eat a meal a day without meat in it, besides a perfect bar.
Yeah. Which if you could just wrap it in bacon, you'd be
Yeah,
fine
I'd be
with.
fine.
Well, let me ask you guys something. What's your take on all these plant-based, quote unquote, meats? Impossible Burger and all that kind of
I
stuff.
won't do it.
I have and I am more I it's not good for my body and my like issues to eat a lot of meat. It's just not good for me. And I was a vegetarian for like 7 or 8 years, and then I kind of went off, and I'll eat selectively, but I'm mostly plant-based. And I don't eat pork because they're real smart animals, and I feel real bad about
They
it.
are
But
really
the
smart.
older I get, the less meat I eat. It's only because of guilt, which is just a crushing issue with my own psychology. But the Impossible Burger is so full of like GMO, like genetically,
It's made in a lab.
and it's full
Agreed.
of chemicals. It's been tested for glyphosate, and it's super high, and I won't fucking eat it.
I'm with you.
Like,
For
you
me,
might as
I
well-
don't even know what it's tested for. It's made in a lab. That is not food. That is not a whole ingredient. If it was a veggie burger made from vegetables, that'd be one thing. I just don't understand. They're taking over the world.
I know.
They're taking over our food chain, our food supply, and they're putting them in schools now. And
The
it's
Impossible
upsetting to me.
Burgers?
Yeah, Beyond Burger, all that crap. It's made in a lab. I don't understand why we think that this is a solution.
Well, I know, but so are the chemicals that are sprayed on vegetables, and so I mean, it's
know.
all
Our food system's real broken.
it's real broken.
Real
That's
broken.
we should do another podcast about that. I could talk about that all day.
I can tell you some people to talk to. It's a sad state of affairs. But that's a downer. That's not what this is all about.
Jeez,
Yeah.
guys.
But I love
Sorry.
food. I do love food, but not the
I'm gonna
Impossible
get
Burger.
some tacos when I leave. If you guys want to come with me.
As you should.
No, we're going to
Yeah.
get deviled eggs.
Oh.
right? Yeah, the Jew in the room who eats the most bacon. It's me.
Well, if I can
Thanks
make you
you.
feel any better about pork, pigs are really smart, but A happy pig, I tried it very hard. That's what
Mhm.
we say in my family. Like we want to eat happy
Yeah,
chickens
That's
and
how.
happy
Yeah,
pigs and
that's how we are.
animals that were raised well on a farm and had a good life and were rooting around. They are killed humanely.
Yeah,
It's
I'm
not
fine
like
with that.
they're not killing baby pigs. They're getting
No.
big and fat and they've had a wonderful life and then they essentially go to sleep.
No,
because they're
I'm
humanely
100%
killed. So
behind
it's
that.
okay.
But just eating, something bacon wrapped off the street,
Right.
like those pigs are not happy, and they're
No,
like,
no.
I feel like there's like bad. Anyway,
Yeah.
we'll stop talking about that.
Denise,
Yes. Thank you, Denise.
Thank you for
Thank you
having
Everybody's
me.
so
hungry
much.
now.
That was so fast. I had a
I
good time
know.
talking to you guys. Thanks for having me.
We are on tour. We
got a tour
We're on
update.
tour.
I'm so hungry.
For eel.
that really became a podcast about eel.
Oh my gosh, who knew? Your face when she was telling that story, like your body was like retracting into itself. You were not happy about that.
I was being skinned.
Gross. Nobody wants to skin anything really, even though we do it.
No,
I mean,
but it's fascinating.
it is fascinating. She's awesome.
She's totally awesome.
I
and
can't believe.
I will never think of eel the same way again.
No, never. I can't believe how much she eats.
And she's tiny, by the way.
I
You guys
know.
can't see her.
She really-
She's totally tiny.
and perky, like all the late nights and the heavy food. I just feel like my face would be all gray and like
no, she's
sallow.
delightful.
She's like
delightful,
like
human.
a ray of sunshine.
Especially because Tracy sent her to the neighbor's house by accident. She gave her the wrong address, and so she's like so kind to give us her time, and she's like walking into the
around
neighbors.
the backyard of someone's house.
And we were like, "We're sorry," and she was like, "That's all right. I'm perfectly
Oh
fine."
my gosh, so funny.
Okay, we have upcoming shows.
Yep. All right. We're in Texas this week, and next week we are in Northern California, San Jose and San Francisco, and in Chicago. Then we've got Albuquerque coming up on the 17th of November.
7th.
That's why I said the 7th of November. Phoenix on the 8th and 9th, 2 nights on a weekend, Friday and Saturday night in Phoenix.
Yeah, and Phoenix is a new venue. It's called CB
CB
Live. I
Live.
think it's more like a music venue. I think it's going to
Yeah,
be
it's gonna
really
be
sexy.
Gorgeous. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And then after Phoenix is Cincinnati, Columbus, Ohio, Salt Lake City, Denver, Irvine, which I think is sold out.
Yeah, it sold out today. The general admission sold out.
Yeah, there's like 5 tickets left, VIP tickets. So guys, yeah, tickets are selling real fast. Cincinnati's close to selling out.
Columbus
Denver's
is
close to
sold
selling
out.
out. Columbus is sold out. So get your tickets. Come and see the Pump and Dump show.
And also know that we've added some fun things where like you can text and then win a prize automatically. So like when you're sitting there with your ladies before the show, you can text this number and then you can win like
more prizes
than ever before, or you can even win just a discount for all of the Breeder or Band of Mothers merch.
Yeah.
Which if you haven't looked online recently, or if your phone does not have a Band of Mothers pop socket,
Then
get
what
a bomb.
good are you?
What good are you?
Are you even a mom if you don't have a bomb pop socket?
Right. Are
They're
you a
so
mom if
cute.
you don't bomb? And that's ridiculous.
That's awesome.
And we just want to thank you one more time to Sarah Wells Bags for sponsoring this episode.
she's
We've
the
actually
best.
met her and worked with her for years.
I mean, Sarah.
She's located in DC and has always
Mhm.
been a strong supporter, and her bags are real cute.
And real good. And like, it's a mom company. She thought of everything that she needed in a pump bag, and she did it.
She's also like does a lot of work with moms and with women
I
and
know, she's the
empowering women.
best.
She's totally
Support
awesome.
her.
So make sure that you use code PUMPANDDUMP10 if you want 10% off of a bag. And the holidays are coming up, so we strongly recommend you do that. And you can check out more about that deal at thepumpanddumpshow.com/deals.
Bye, guys. Enjoy your octopus and eel. Love you.